My husband let his mother humiliate me. That's when I knew it was over. I used to think love was enough, that it could conquer anything, smooth over any rough edges. I was so incredibly wrong. It all started with the rosemary, I think. Sounds silly, doesn't it? Please. But it was never just about the rosemary. It was about the subtle digs, the condescending smiles, the constant feeling that I was never quite good enough. I remember that Sunday so clearly. I was actually excited. Ethan's family was coming over for dinner, and I wanted everything to be perfect. I spent hours in the kitchen, slaving over a roast chicken, my signature dish. I even added a touch of rosemary because Ethan's mom, Eleanor, had mentioned in passing once that she liked it. Ethan seemed a little off that day, a bit distant, but I brushed it aside. He's always been a bit of a mama's boy, but I thought it was just family stress. Everything's almost ready, I said, wiping my brow. Are you sure your mom's feeling okay? She sounded a bit off when I spoke to her earlier. He just shrugged, not really looking at me. Yeah, she's fine. Just a bit stressed about the family coming over. You know how she gets. That, you know how she gets, should have been my first red flag, the first sign that maybe, just maybe, I was fighting a losing battle. But I was young and naive and blinded by love. I still believed I could win her over. The doorbell rang and my stomach clenched. Ethan opened the door and there she was. Eleanor. Impeccably dressed, perfectly coiffed, and radiating an air of disapproval that could curdle milk. Behind her were Ethan's sister, Chloe, and her husband, Mark. Eleanor always had this way of looking at me like I was some kind of charity case, a project she needed to fix. And her words. They were like little darts, carefully aimed at my most vulnerable spots. Ethan, darling. So good to see you, she gushed, completely ignoring me for a moment. Then she turned her gaze to me, her eyes narrowing slightly. Aaliyah, dear, you've done something with your hair. I had just gotten it cut the day before. I was actually really proud of it. I thought it made me look sophisticated, a little more grown up. But the way she said it, that subtle inflection, made me feel like I'd committed some kind of fashion crime. Hi, Eleanor, I managed, forcing a smile. Yes, I just got it cut yesterday. Do you like it? Her lips pursed. It's certainly a choice. Let's just hope it grows back quickly. I felt my cheeks flush. I forced myself to meet her gaze, to not let her see how much her words stung. And Ethan. He just stood there, silent, like he was watching a tennis match and didn't want to interfere with the game. The dinner was a minefield. Every compliment I received was followed by a subtle dig from Eleanor. It was exhausting, like trying to navigate a room full of landmines. Mark, bless his heart, tried to be supportive. This looks amazing, he said, gesturing to the roast chicken. You've really outdone yourself. Thank you, Mark. I replied, grateful for his kindness. I tried a new recipe. That's when it happened. Eleanor sniffed the air, her nose wrinkling in distaste. Is that rosemary? She asked, her voice dripping with disapproval. You know I can't stand rosemary. It overpowers everything. And just like that, the dam broke. It wasn't just about the rosemary. It was about years of subtle insults, of feeling like I was constantly being judged and found wanting. It was about the way Ethan never stood up for me, never defended me against his mother's barbs. I'm sorry, Eleanor, I said, trying to keep my voice even. I didn't realize. I can make you something else if you'd like. She waved her hand dismissively. Don't trouble yourself. I'll just pick around it. The rest of the dinner was a blur of forced smiles and strained conversation. Eleanor continued to pepper her comments with little jabs, each one chipping away at my already fragile composure. She criticized my cooking. Apparently the gravy was too thick. She questioned my career. Being a freelance graphic designer was, in her opinion, hardly a stable profession. She even managed to find fault with the way I decorated the house, suggesting that my taste was a little too eclectic for Ethan's family. And through it all, Ethan remained silent. He'd nod along to his mother's comments, offer a weak smile, but never once did he stand up for me. It was like he was afraid of her, terrified of rocking the boat. I started to feel like I was suffocating, like the walls were closing in on me. I wanted to scream, to lash out, to tell Eleanor exactly what I thought of her and her constant negativity. But I held back. I didn't want to cause a scene. I didn't want to embarrass Ethan. But as the evening wore on, the silence became unbearable. It was a thick, suffocating silence that filled the room, a silence that screamed louder than any words could have. It was the silence of complicity, the silence of a husband who valued his mother's approval more than his wife's feelings. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the family started to leave. I stood by the door, forcing a smile as I said goodbye, trying to pretend that everything was fine. But inside I was crumbling. As Eleanor hugged Ethan goodbye, she turned to me, her eyes glinting with a strange mixture of triumph and pity. "Thank you for dinner, Aaliyah," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "It was interesting." And then she leaned in close, her breath hot on my ear, and whispered, "You'll never be good enough for my son, you know. He deserves someone more." That was it. That was the breaking point. Something inside me snapped. The years of pent-up frustration, the constant feeling of inadequacy, the crushing weight of Ethan's silence. It all came crashing down on me at once. I stepped back, away from Eleanor, away from Ethan, away from the suffocating atmosphere of that house. I looked at Ethan, really looked at him, and I saw not the man I had fallen in love with, but a weak, spineless boy who couldn't stand up to his own mother. "I can't do this anymore," I said, my voice trembling but firm. Ethan looked at me, his eyes wide with confusion. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about your mother," I said, my voice rising slightly. "I'm talking about the way she treats me, the way she constantly puts me down. And I'm talking about you, Ethan. About how you never defend me, how you always take her side." "I'm done." Eleanor gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "How dare you speak to us like that?" I ignored her, my gaze fixed on Ethan. "I'm leaving," I said, my voice now steady and resolute. "I can't stay in a marriage where I'm constantly being belittled and disrespected. I deserve better than this." I turned and walked away, leaving Ethan and Eleanor standing there, speechless. I didn't look back. I didn't cry. I just walked. I went upstairs, packed a bag, and left. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay there. Not for another minute. As I drove away, I felt a strange sense of freedom, a sense of liberation that I hadn't felt in years. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, a weight that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. The days that followed were a blur. I stayed with a friend, found a small apartment, and started to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, moments of loneliness, moments when I wondered if I had made the right decision. But then I would remember Eleanor's words, the way Ethan had stood by and watched as she tore me down, and I would know that I had done the right thing. I had chosen myself, my own happiness, over a marriage that was slowly killing me. It's been a year since I left Ethan. A year since I finally stood up for myself. A year since I started to heal. It hasn't been easy, not by a long shot. There were days when I woke up with a knot in my stomach, the memories of Eleanor's insults and Ethan's silence still fresh in my mind. There were nights when I lay awake in my new, unfamiliar apartment, the silence amplifying my loneliness. There were moments when I questioned everything, wondering if I had made the right decision, if I had thrown away something valuable for nothing. But then I would remember her words, the way Ethan had stood by and watched as she tore me down, and I would know that I had done the right thing. I had chosen myself, my own happiness, over a marriage that was slowly killing me. The first few weeks were a blur of paperwork and logistics. Finding an apartment was surprisingly difficult, especially on a freelance income. I had to swallow my pride and ask my best friend Maya for help with the deposit. She didn't hesitate for a second. "You did the right thing, Aaliyah," she said, squeezing my hand. "You deserve so much better than that. And don't worry about the money. We'll figure it out." Maya was a lifesaver. She helped me find a cozy little apartment in a vibrant neighborhood, a place that felt like a fresh start. It was small, but it was mine. I decorated it with bright colors and quirky artwork, filling it with things that made me happy. I even adopted a small ginger cat from a local shelter, naming him Rusty. He was a constant source of comfort, purring contentedly on my lap as I worked late into the night. The hardest part was dealing with the silence from Ethan. For weeks, I didn't hear a word from him. No calls, no texts, no emails. It was like I had vanished from his life. I started to wonder if he even cared, if I had meant anything to him at all. The silence was deafening, a constant reminder of the void he had left in my life. I found myself replaying our memories, searching for clues, for signs that I had missed. Was I wrong about him? Was I too hasty? Then one evening my phone rang. It was him. My heart pounded in my chest as I answered. "Hello, Aaliyah." His voice sounded strained, hesitant. "Yes, Ethan." There was a long pause. I wanted to apologize," he finally said. "For everything. For not standing up for you, for letting my mother treat you like that. I was wrong. I didn't say anything. Just listened." A wave of conflicting emotions washed over me. Anger, sadness, relief, and a strange sense of vindication. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to unleash all the pain and frustration I had been holding inside. But another part of me just wanted to hear him say those words, to acknowledge the hurt he had caused. "Mom's been difficult," he continued. "She's always been controlling, but I never realized how much it was affecting you. I'm so sorry." I took a deep breath. "It's too late, Ethan," I said softly. "The damage is done. I can't go back." "I know," he said. "But I just wanted you to know that I understand. And that I'm sorry." We talked for a few more minutes, mostly about practical things. Dividing our assets, finalizing the divorce. It was a civil conversation, but there was a sadness hanging in the air, a sense of what could have been. He mentioned that his mother was furious with him for apologizing, that she had accused him of betraying her. I felt a pang of sympathy for him, but I knew that it wasn't my responsibility to fix his relationship with his mother. He had made his choices, and now he had to live with the consequences. After I hung up, I cried. Not because I missed him, but because I mourned the loss of the dream we had shared, the future that had been stolen from us. I cried for the years I had wasted trying to please Eleanor, for the sacrifices I had made for a marriage that was ultimately unsustainable. My parents were supportive but also confused. They couldn't understand why I had left Ethan. "He's such a good man," my mother said. "And Eleanor is just... Eleanor, you have to learn to deal with difficult people." But I couldn't. I couldn't spend the rest of my life tiptoeing around Eleanor's insecurities, constantly trying to prove myself worthy. I deserved to be loved and respected, not tolerated. I tried to explain this to my parents, but they didn't seem to understand. They came from a different generation, a generation where marriage was seen as a lifelong commitment, regardless of the circumstances. I realized that I had to forge my own path, to make my own decisions, even if it meant disappointing them. With the divorce proceedings underway, I threw myself into my work. I started taking on more freelance projects, working long hours to build my portfolio and establish myself as a talented graphic designer. I redesigned my website, showcasing my best work and highlighting my unique skills. I attended networking events, connecting with other designers and potential clients. I even started offering workshops on graphic design for small businesses, sharing my knowledge and expertise with others. It wasn't easy. There were times when I felt overwhelmed, when I doubted my abilities. The freelance world was unpredictable, and there were periods when work was scarce and money was tight. I remember one particularly difficult month when I had to choose between paying my rent and buying groceries. I swallowed my pride and asked Maya for another loan, promising to pay her back as soon as I could. Her unwavering support kept me going during those tough times. But I pushed through, driven by a desire to prove to myself that I could succeed on my own. I was determined to build a life that was fulfilling and meaningful, a life that was not dependent on anyone else's approval. I wanted to be financially independent, emotionally resilient, and creatively fulfilled. And slowly, things started to turn around. I landed a contract with a small publishing house, designing book covers. The work was challenging but also incredibly rewarding. I loved seeing my designs on bookshelves, knowing that I had contributed something beautiful to the world. The positive feedback I received from the publisher and the authors boosted my confidence and validated my skills. I also started exploring new hobbies. I joined a yoga class, which helped me to de-stress and reconnect with my body. The gentle movements and mindful breathing helped to calm my anxiety and quiet the negative voices in my head. I found myself looking forward to the classes, not just for the physical benefits, but also for the sense of community and connection. I took a pottery class, where I discovered a hidden talent for creating beautiful, functional objects. The feeling of shaping clay with my hands was incredibly therapeutic, allowing me to express my creativity in a tangible way. I started experimenting with different techniques and glazes, creating unique pieces that reflected my personality and style. I even started selling my pottery at local craft fairs, receiving positive feedback and earning a little extra income. I even started learning how to play the guitar, something I had always wanted to do but never had the time for. I found a patient and encouraging instructor who helped me to overcome my initial fears and frustrations. I practiced every day, slowly mastering chords and learning to play my favorite songs. Music became a source of joy and inspiration, a way to escape the stresses of daily life. Through these activities, I met new people who shared my passions and interests. I made friends with the other students in my yoga class, women who were strong, independent, and supportive. We would often grab coffee after class, sharing our struggles and celebrating our successes. They became my tribe, a group of women who understood what I was going through and offered unwavering encouragement. I bonded with my pottery instructor, a quirky artist named Sarah who encouraged me to embrace my creativity. Sarah was a free spirit, living life on her own terms and pursuing her passions without apology. She became a mentor to me, sharing her wisdom and inspiring me to take risks and follow my dreams. And I even started dating again, cautiously dipping my toes back into the world of romance. It was terrifying at first, putting myself out there again after being so hurt. I went on a few disastrous dates, encountering men who were either arrogant, boring, or emotionally unavailable. I started to wonder if I was destined to be alone forever. Then I met Liam at a local art fair. He was a sculptor with kind eyes and a gentle smile. We talked for hours about art, music, and life. He was different from Ethan. He listened to me, he valued my opinions, and he never tried to control me. He was genuinely interested in who I was as a person, not just as a potential partner. We started seeing each other regularly. He took me to museums, concerts, and cozy little cafes. He made me laugh, he made me feel alive, and he made me believe that maybe, just maybe, I could find love again. He was patient and understanding, allowing me to open up at my own pace. He never pressured me to talk about my past, but he was always there to listen when I needed to vent. But even as I started to heal and rebuild my life, the memories of Eleanor and Ethan still lingered in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to confront them, to have one final conversation, to finally put the past behind me. I knew that I couldn't fully move on until I had addressed the unresolved issues and set clear boundaries. One day, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Ethan. He asked if we could meet just to talk. He said he had something important to tell me. The letter was short and to the point, written in his familiar, slightly messy handwriting. It was postmarked from our old town, a place I hadn't visited since I left. I hesitated. I wasn't sure if I was ready to see him again. The thought of facing him, of reliving the pain and humiliation I had experienced, filled me with anxiety. I consulted Maya, seeking her advice. "Do you really want to see him?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "What good will it do?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But I feel like I need to. I need to hear what he has to say. I need to know that he understands the damage he caused." "Okay," she said. "But promise me you'll protect yourself. Don't let him manipulate you. Don't let him guilt you into anything. Promise." I knew that Maya was right. I had to go into this meeting with my eyes open, prepared to stand my ground and protect my emotional well-being. We met at a small park near my apartment. I chose the location deliberately, wanting to be in a familiar, safe space. It was a sunny afternoon, and the park was filled with families and children playing. The normalcy of the scene helped to calm my nerves. He looked different. He had lost weight, and his eyes were filled with a sadness that I had never seen before. He was wearing a simple gray t-shirt and jeans, a far cry from the impeccably dressed preppy attire he used to favor. He looked vulnerable, almost lost. "Thank you for meeting me," he said, his voice barely a whisper. He seemed nervous, fidgeting with his hands and avoiding eye contact. "What did you want to talk about, Ethan?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. I wanted to get straight to the point, to avoid any unnecessary emotional drama. He took a deep breath. "I wanted to tell you that I've finally stood up to my mother," he said. "I told her that her behavior was unacceptable, that she had hurt you deeply, and that I couldn't tolerate it anymore." He finally met my gaze. His eyes filled with a mixture of hope and shame. I stared at him in disbelief. What? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was the thing I had longed for during our entire marriage, the one thing that could have saved us. And now, a year later, he was finally doing it. "She didn't take it well," he continued. "She was furious. She accused me of betraying her, of choosing you over her. But I stood my ground. I told her that I loved you, that I valued you, and that I wouldn't let her treat you like that again." He paused, his voice cracking with emotion. "It was the hardest thing I've ever done." Tears welled up in my eyes. "Why are you telling me this, Ethan?" I asked, my voice trembling. Was this some kind of twisted attempt to win me back? Was he trying to manipulate me with his newfound courage? "Because I wanted you to know that I've changed," he said. "That I've learned from my mistakes. And that I'm truly sorry for the pain I caused you." He reached out to take my hand, but I flinched away. We talked for a long time that day. He told me about the struggles he had faced since I left, about the guilt and regret that had consumed him. He told me about how he had finally realized the extent of his mother's control and how he was determined to break free. He had started therapy, he explained, and was working on setting healthy boundaries with his mother. He described the arguments, the tears, and the emotional blackmail he had endured. I listened, but I didn't offer forgiveness. I couldn't. The wounds were still too fresh, the scars too deep. I acknowledged his efforts, but I made it clear that it didn't change the past. "I appreciate you telling me this, Ethan," I said, "but it doesn't change anything. Can't go back. I've moved on. I'm happy." He nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "I know," he said. "I didn't expect you to take me back. I just wanted you to know that I'm not the same person I was before." Before we parted ways, he told me one more thing. He said that his mother wanted to apologize to me as well. She had finally realized the extent of her actions and wanted to make amends. I was shocked. Eleanor, apologizing, seemed impossible. A few days later, I received another letter. This time it was from Eleanor. She requested a meeting, saying she wanted to apologize in person. I hesitated even more this time. Meeting with Eleanor was a daunting prospect. The thought of facing her, of reliving the years of insults and negativity, filled me with dread. But I also knew that I couldn't truly move on until I had heard her apology, until I had released the anger and resentment that I had been holding onto for so long. I consulted Liam, seeking his advice. He listened patiently as I explained the situation, offering his unwavering support. "It's your decision, Aaliyah," he said. "But if you think it will help you to heal, then you should do it. Just remember to protect yourself. Don't let her manipulate you. And don't feel obligated to forgive her if you're not ready." I agreed. I knew that I had to go into this meeting with my eyes open, prepared to stand my ground and protect my emotional well-being. We met at a neutral location, a quiet tea room in a nearby town. I chose the location deliberately, wanting to be in a public space where I felt safe and in control. She looked different too. She was dressed in a simple black dress, her hair pulled back in a severe bun. She looked older, more fragile than I remembered. The usual air of disapproval and condescension was replaced with a look of vulnerability and remorse. "Thank you for meeting me, Aaliyah," she said, her voice surprisingly soft. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted to apologize for the way I treated you. I was wrong. I was insecure and I took it out on you. I was jealous of your relationship with Ethan, and I tried to sabotage it. I'm so sorry." Tears streamed down her face as she spoke. I stared at her in disbelief. Was this really Eleanor? The woman who had made my life a living hell for so many years? She continued, her voice trembling with emotion. "I realize now that I was wrong to try to control Ethan's life. He's his own person and he deserves to make his own choices. I've hurt him too with my behavior. I'm trying to change, to be a better mother, a better person." I listened in silence, trying to process everything she was saying. Part of me wanted to lash out, to unleash all the anger and resentment I had been holding inside. But another part of me felt a flicker of compassion for this broken, remorseful woman. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Eleanor," I said finally, my voice barely a whisper. "You hurt me deeply. You made me feel worthless. It will take time for me to heal." "I understand," she said, wiping away her tears. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just wanted you to know that I'm truly sorry, and that I'm committed to changing my behavior." We talked for a long time that day. She told me about her own insecurities, about her fear of being alone, about her struggles with aging. She revealed a side of herself that I had never seen before, a vulnerable human side. I didn't offer forgiveness, not completely, but I did offer understanding. I realized that Eleanor was just as much a victim of her own insecurities and fears as I was. She had been trapped in a cycle of negativity and control, and she was finally trying to break free. Before we parted ways, she reached out and took my hand. "Thank you for listening, Aaliyah," she said. "It means more than you know." I nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "I hope you find peace, Eleanor," I said. "You deserve it." As I walked away from that meeting, I felt a sense of closure, a sense of release. I had finally confronted my demons, and I had emerged stronger and wiser. I had heard the apologies I had longed to hear, and I had finally put the past behind me. I realized that forgiveness wasn't about condoning Eleanor's behavior, or forgetting the pain she had caused. It was about releasing the anger and resentment that I had been holding on to, about freeing myself from the burden of the past. It was about choosing to move forward, to create a new future for myself, free from the negativity and control of others. I returned to my apartment, feeling lighter and more at peace than I had felt in years. Liam was waiting for me, his eyes filled with concern. "How did it go?" he asked, pulling me into a warm embrace. Smiled. "It went well," I said. "It's over. I can finally move on." He kissed me gently on the forehead. "I'm so proud of you," he said. "You're the strongest person I know." That night, I slept soundly for the first time in months. The nightmares were gone, the anxiety had subsided, and I felt a sense of peace and contentment that I had never experienced before. The following months were filled with joy and growth. My career continued to flourish, I deepened my friendships, and my relationship with Liam blossomed. We traveled to new places, explored new hobbies, and supported each other's dreams. I felt truly alive, truly happy, and truly grateful for the second chance I had been given. One sunny afternoon, Liam took me to a beautiful botanical garden. We strolled hand in hand through the lush greenery, admiring the vibrant flowers and the towering trees. As we reached a secluded gazebo overlooking a tranquil pond, he stopped and turned to me, his eyes filled with love. "Aaliyah," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "You've brought so much joy and light into my life. You're kind, compassionate, and incredibly strong. I love you more than words can say." He knelt down on one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "Will you marry me?" he asked, opening the box to reveal a sparkling diamond ring. Tears streamed down my face as I nodded, my heart overflowing with happiness. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I will." He slipped the ring onto my finger, and we embraced, kissing passionately under the warm afternoon sun. It was a perfect moment, a symbol of the new beginning I had created for myself. We planned our wedding for the following spring, a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. I invited my parents, of course, and they were overjoyed. They had finally come to terms with my decision to leave Ethan, and were thrilled that I had found happiness again. I even invited Ethan and Eleanor. Ethan accepted, offering his heartfelt congratulations. Eleanor declined, saying she wasn't ready to face me again. But she sent a beautiful handwritten card, wishing us all the best. As I walked down the aisle on my wedding day, I felt a sense of gratitude and peace wash over me. I had overcome so many challenges, I had faced my demons, and I had emerged stronger and wiser. I had learned that love is not enough, that you have to choose yourself, your own happiness, over anything else. And I had found a love that was true, a love that was supportive, a love that was built on respect and understanding. I looked at Liam, standing at the end of the aisle, his eyes filled with love and admiration. And I knew that I had finally found my happy ending. Thank you for watching. If you want more videos like this, please like, subscribe and share.